Hey there, friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pain Science Education Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Joe Tatta. It's great to be joining you again this week. On today's episode, we are discussing the concept of recovery court. Now, recovery court has been used around the United States to help people overcome substance use. However, one of the challenges with recovery court has been connecting people to services that not only help them with substance use, but also improve their physical and their mental well-being. Now, we know based on scientific evidence that exercise helps people with substance use, as well as improves people's physical and mental well-being. And my guests today are doing just that. Walter Midkiff and the Honorable Judge Lee Harrell have come together to integrate fitness into addiction recovery, which is called Recovery Fitness and is a part of Recovery Court. And they're seeing some amazing results with their participants. On today's episode, we'll discuss the concept of Recovery Court and how to integrate fitness at the community level to fuel recovery. Okay, without further ado, let's learn about how to use fitness to fuel the positive outcomes in Recovery Court and give a big welcome to Walter Midkiff and the Honorable Lee Harrell.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Welcome to both of you. I gave people a little bit of an introduction to both of you that I spliced in here before. So people have a little bit of background on who both of you are and some of the great work that you're doing. I want to kind of get the backstory here, though, before we kind of dive into where both of you are today and how you've collaborated. And I think the best place to start with that is with Walter. Walter, you have a background in fitness and health education. And, even when I look at the literature and the research behind the area of exercise for things like addiction and mental health, it's still relatively new. So the things you're doing are really cutting edge. How did you come to develop what you call recovery fitness?
Well, it kind of happened by happenstance. I have been involved in fitness and nutrition my entire life. I'd say the last 20 years, I've done some form of fitness coaching, nutrition coaching, teaching of some sort. And Judge Harrell approached me one day and asked if I would just come lead some exercises for his recovery court group. I said, yeah, sure. Why not? I was doing another job. And one afternoon, I just came over and we did some exercises, and they really enjoyed it. So he said, well, why don't you come back? And so I came back, and they really enjoyed it again. And, we kind of got to talking about it and said, this could be something. This is really affecting them. We need to dive deeper into it. Mm-hmm. So that's when the idea of recovery fitness kind of started, just to how is fitness affecting their recovery from substance abuse? And it just kind of grew from that. And we started doing this in other recovery courts and other groups in the community, and just showing them how that fitness helps their recovery. And it got successful enough. I quit my job, and, I've started a nonprofit foundation, and this is what I do now.
So I'm assuming this evolved over a period of time. Did you develop some kind of framework to the program that guides you in kind of the things that are the interventions that you're using?
Yes, it was a slow start to that, and it's always evolving. We start with the basics of, fitness and how it affects them. Just, this is what you're doing in fitness. This is how it makes you feel better. You're releasing endorphins in your body. You're releasing dopamine. You feel better because of things you did yourself. You don't have to go out and find those substances other places. You can make yourself feel better through fitness. And that's the basis of what we start with. And then it's just evolved from there. And then we teach more lessons as we go about getting to that, the threshold where the dopamine is released, just a community coming together and working out together, and how that helps them to be more physically active and to push a little harder than what they were going to do. So we go through a process, every week, and just so they can build on what they've learned.
I think it's great that you're talking about some of the neuroscience behind that, that double hit of dopamine from one, the exercise, and two, being in the group together is really important. A lot of people don't realize that group aspect combined with the exercise oftentimes is kind of the special recipe, especially for populations where people have substance abuse or there may be a mental health condition like depression that is also impacting their recovery.
Correct. So working out together. You're pushing harder because you have your friends there, and we're doing partner workouts and team workouts. We're playing music, which helps you go a little longer, and it helps you feel better when you're doing it. And we are exercising at higher intensities, and that helps too.
That's good. That's a good point. So you're exercising at a higher intensity, because there is some good research that the moderate to high intensity levels are really what impacts people's brain health in a positive way.
Correct. And that's what our focus is high intensity workouts.
Okay, so Judge Harrell, why don't you hop in here? Tell us how Recovery Fitness became Recovery Court.
Well, we have had Recovery Court for quite some time. We started it in 2016, and it is a program that is allowed under Virginia's criminal justice system to divert individuals who might otherwise go to prison. The easiest way to think about it is an extremely intensive form of probation. But the goal here is a total reformation of the person, that really focuses on their treatment and, getting help, getting recovered. During the pandemic, we really struggled because we were just not able to meet as a group and missed out on what you were talking about, that socialization. So when that started to clear up, I was very anxious to get our group back together. And Walter and I were good buddies, and I just reached out to him because I knew he could help. And I also did know for myself personally, my mental health and my ability to deal with pain is intricately linked to my physical fitness. And I'm always better when I'm physically fit. I knew that this was a component that was missing in recovery. We've spent a lot of time working on the mental aspects, and mental health and recovery and substance abuse disorder are all interlinked. Almost everyone I work with in Recovery Court has some issue related to mental health. But what was missing was the physical fitness. And we had these folks that had completely ignored the physical side of themselves for decades.
Yeah.
So it was the hope that we could kind of kill two birds with one stone by bringing us together as a group and doing something positive, but also taking advantage of that physiology and neurobiology that you all are talking about that's over my head.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting for me to hear this because I'm not aware, I live in New York State, and I'm not aware of a similar program. If there may be one in the state here, but it sounds like this is an alternative that the participants in your program are, I guess, segued into this Recovery Court. Are they receiving other services during this time?
Oh, yes. They have a rigorous treatment service through our Community Services Board. So everyone that goes in will have an evaluation of their substance abuse disorder, and they're going to receive individualized treatment, group treatment, sometimes inpatient before they really start with us. It just depends on where they are in terms of their recovery. But that's always been the primary thrust of this program is treatment. What we were leaving out was the physical fitness side of it.
Right. So they're receiving the counseling aspect of it either before and or during, but now you're bringing in kind of the body aspect of it, so to speak.
Right. Yes. And they are under a lot of strictures in our program. They are under the supervision of the Recovery Court team, which means their location is constantly monitored through, digital tracking. They're subject to constant screening and testing for controlled substances. They're required to attend Narcotics Anonymous meetings 2 a week. They have to have whatever stage of their treatment, they have to comply with that. And then they meet with us 2 times a week in the basement of this courthouse and work out.
Okay, great. That was my next question. Where is the actual recovery fitness taking place, and what does that look like? How much is there, like a built out gym with really nice equipment? Is it just more, mats and some dumbbells? What's happening with the actual fitness component of it?
Well, it started right here in this courtroom.
In the courtroom.
Showed up and just did, for the first day we did body weight exercises.
Body weight, yeah.
And then I started bringing dumbbells and kettlebells and anything I had at my house, I started bringing. And I showed up in my Subaru and I packed it full, and we just put it right here in the courtroom. We put the tables and the chairs off to the side, and we just worked out right here in the courtroom, just sweating on the carpet. And it evolved, and the county got behind us here and they supported it. And they gave us some funds, and we cleaned out a room in the basement and put rubber mats down, and we have exercise equipment and just a plethora of dumbbells, kettlebells, pull-up bars. We have a fully kitted out gym downstairs now.
And how many
really exciting? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say, how many people are typically, I guess, in the gym at one time?
Well, including some kids that show up, participants, they participate with us. Local attorneys come and participate. County administrator is there every day working out, volunteering at his time. We've probably got 20 to 30 people down there just shoulder to shoulder working out.
That's great. So you have members of the community who realize that this recovery program is going on, and they join them kind of as part of the overall social aspect, which I think is really important, because that takes the stigma out of what the participants are potentially going through in their recovery process.
Agreed. We last week had one of our participants' mother working out with her own great grandson. So we had a great grandchild and a great grandmother working out that weren't even part of our program. They're just there.
Yeah. And I know that that's how you met our colleague, Professor Rose Pignataro, correct? I know has come into the gym, worked out with you, and I believe she's going to potentially do some research for the program.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. She came and worked out with us, and she had a great time.
Yeah. So you have a physical therapist in the gym working out with everyone. And I'm assuming it sounds like it's obviously probably a gender diverse group of people, multicultural. So really all walks of life are coming into the program.
They are. Everyone that comes in this program has been charged with a felony. The code of Virginia doesn't allow people charged with violent felonies to come into our program, but it doesn't have to be limited to drug crimes. There are people in our program that are charged with property crimes that are usually associated with their substance use disorder, larceny, shoplifting, things like that. The goal is at the completion of the program, which typically takes about 18 months, that their charges will be dismissed when they graduate. That's our goal. There was something I wanted to tell you about related to the equipment and where we're getting that from, because it's so exciting. You are probably familiar with the opioid settlement that occurred nationwide. That money has now been released to the states, and Virginia got over $1 billion. The county we're in right now, where recovery court occurs, they used a portion of their money to buy us equipment. And we have some terrific equipment down there, top of the line stuff from Rogue. And it's such a wonderful irony that money came from the opioid settlement. And it's really heartwarming to see that money being used to help these folks.
Yeah, that's a wonderful use of money. I know a lot of the money has segued into kind of covering legal services and legal help, but I really love that they're using it for the direct treatment and care and recovery of people with substance use and things like chronic pain, which oftentimes these are overlapping. Is chronic pain something that you recognize in this group that you're working with?
It's every day. Every participant comes in with some sort of pain, some sort of, I don't want to use the word excuse, but a reason why they don't think they can participate. Things that are going on. I've got COPD. I can't do push-ups because it hurts where I got shot. That was a new one on me. Just different ailments that I have. My chest hurts. I dropped a transmission on my chest last week at work. I fell out of a tree. I got a chainsaw injury. Just they have all ailments of all types that they deal with, and working through the pain that that they have, and trying to figure out what's the best for each individual during their workout. It could be a challenge, but they've learned that they're going to come in and they're going to work. I might modify it. Judge Harrell might do 300-pound deadlifts, and they might be picking up an 18-pound kettlebell, but we're all going to work together. We're all going to do very similar movements. It's just all scalable, and we're going to listen to our bodies. But they've learned that they can do it, that no matter, what's going on, that they can push and they can get a little more from their body than they thought they could.
Right, because we know that both addiction and pain recovery have an emotional component that is part of the recovery process. Maybe you can give us a kind of almost like a case study. You don't have to mention names, of course, but like what this looks like for someone, a success story, if you will, of how you've seen someone change. And I think when we say change, people change physically, they change emotionally, they change psychologically, they even change spiritually when they go through addiction and pain recovery processes.
Yeah, I'd say a good one that sticks out is a young man we have in one of our recovery courts. And when he first started, he was honestly just full of excuses why he couldn't do things. I need my inhaler. I can't run. I need this. I can't do that. And through this process of him pushing a little harder each day and getting a little better over, how long has he been with us? 6-9 months?
6 months, I think.
He's learned that he can. And the problems, I haven't seen him pick up his inhaler in months. I haven't seen him come up with an excuse why he can't do things. He's picking up the 55-pound kettlebell instead of the 20-pound kettlebell. He's doing push-ups and pull-ups, and he's asking me if we can bench press. And some things that he thought was holding him back, he's learning that it's just an excuse in his head, and that this has really helped him just become a better person inside and out. And he's just challenging himself more because of what we've been doing.
That confidence building that is so lacking in them when they come in. They've been stigmatized by our culture here, and they've been told that they're no good, that they're castaways. And having them pick up weights, most of them have never done it. They're terrified to do it. And when they do it and they start to see that success and that they can, that confidence, that belief in themselves, it's not just about I picked up a barbell. It's I can do something I didn't think that I could do. Mm-hmm. And I did this myself.
Right. So there's a real skill building process that's happening here. Right. And yes, those skills really translate to other, like so you see the people, you mentioned this, quite well so far. People think they can't move, they can't exercise, they can't do things physically. Then when you take them through this process, they look back and they say, wow, I actually overcame that challenge. And that tends, and the research shows this, that's what's called self-efficacy, tends to flow over into other aspects of their life, meaning their personal relationships improve. They now go out and look for meaningful work. Maybe they go back and get a certificate or education. But have you seen that happen with the participants in your program?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has translated across the board in everything they do. When their physical health starts to improve, when that socialization begins to improve, they get excited about their lives in a way that they haven't been before, because their lives have been, really just substances. That's what they've been doing, some of them for decades. We have a guy in our group who started using when he was 13 years old. And up until his joining our program, he had never had a day of sobriety. And now he's over 100 days sober with us.
That's such a success story. It's really tremendous. There are probably some challenges and barriers that show up here as well. I mean, you mentioned a couple, like kind of the interpersonal challenges, if you will. But are there like more systemic challenges that the two of you as professionals have come up against, or that you'd like to maybe see change so that this type of program could expand not only in your state, but potentially to other states?
I mean, people think we're nuts. No one, like you said, I don't know if anybody else is doing this. And it's pretty unusual to have this level of interaction with criminal defendants. It just doesn't really happen in the criminal justice system. but I don't think it's possible to do this without that interaction. We run into relapse a lot. And relapse is probably our biggest systemic problem is just dealing with relapse and trying to work through that. The fact that they now have Walter that they trust and that they believe in and it has helped them gives an outlet. It's another person that they can turn to, when they are struggling, and developing those relationships, that trust, that socialization has been important. I don't know what other barriers you've seen.
I guess just getting the word out, because what we're doing is different and people are afraid of different. And people are afraid of lifting weights and they don't think that they can do that. And they don't think others should be doing that. So we want this to be more mainstream. Fitness is part of life. Being in good physical health is part of everyone's life. And we want to give them that opportunity. And if we can get the word out to just make this more mainstream in everybody's recovery, not just recovery court, but anybody out there, that they can learn wherever I'm at, fitness should be part of my life and it's going to help me. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah,
people have said, sorry.
No, go ahead, Judge.
I was going to say, people have said, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt. And my answer to that is, you might. Injury is always a possibility when you're exercising, but you're going to get hurt a lot worse if you don't exercise, if you don't use your body, if you don't put your muscles to work, you're going to hurt yourself a lot more. So getting over that fear, gym fear is what I call it. I'm sure there's another term for it, but that's been a barrier for us, trying to convince people you can do this.
Always a mental component when it comes to movement in people who haven't moved for a long time. When they have injuries, oftentimes they're what's called fear avoidant, means they have this fear and it causes them to avoid movement. But all the things you're saying are well detailed and completely supported by evidence. You just have put it in a completely different context. It's interesting to me because as I listen to you talk about this, and I think it's amazing that you have this first recovery court fitness component, but there are things like this that kind of exist in some of the VA circles, the Veteran Administration, with like Wounded Warrior projects and things like that. I'm surprised that some of that hasn't spilled over into, I guess the judicial system is the right term, correct, Judge?
Yes, I'm not aware of it though, but I would like to see it expanded. Virginia has started some trial mental health courts where it isn't limited to substance abuse, but other mental health issues. I mean, the relationship, as I'm sure between mental health and criminality is, it's intricately tied together. And there are plenty of people out there that suffer from mental health issues that get tangled up in the criminal justice system that doesn't involve substance abuse. So Virginia has started some mental health courts in the larger jurisdictions. And I just think this would be great for them to do something like what we're doing.
And I imagine there's a funding piece to this that has to be accounted for on a state level.
Yeah. Funding's an issue. That's for sure. I meet people all the time, different groups, NA groups, recovery courts that think this is a wonderful idea, but there's no funding out there.
Right.
And, we gotta fund it, and we gotta buy equipment. We gotta travel.
The opioid settlement has really opened a lot of doors in that regard. And so I'm hopeful that other jurisdictions can take advantage of that money as it flows out and, try new things and different things. It doesn't have to be this, but it's so clear that what's been tried in the past, it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I mean, we haven't found anything that has worked, and history just shows that. The cycle of incarceration, probation, and reincarceration, that is a death spiral for anyone. And it simply doesn't work. It doesn't help the taxpayer. It doesn't help the community. Locking someone up because they possess drugs for 6 months and then letting them out and put them on probation and they come back in, within 3 months. it's no good for anyone. We have to find a different way to handle this issue. And that's what we're trying to do here, is try something new, try something different.
Yeah. I mean, we have an ongoing conversation here on the podcast about innovation in pain care, meaning we have all these skills, we have all these tools, all these knowledge. We probably don't use all of them. And all of us do things on a regular basis that we've been doing for years. And some of those things work well, and some of them we just really need to just blow up the system and start something completely new, which is what both of you are doing, which is wonderful. And I encourage, as people listen to this, just to think about how can you do something new and innovative, such as recovery court or recovery fitness. What are your recommendations to, let's say, a health professional or a legal professional who wants to start to enter into this, develop a program, start to explore this, see if it is a possibility in their community? How would you recommend that they go about starting that?
Well, I mean, I think something similar to this would it takes a little bit of gumption, but I would reach out to community organizers. We're really lucky where I am right now, which is Giles County, Virginia. The county administration has just been so supportive of this notion and this idea, and that has been extremely helpful. I'm not sure we could function without them. Bringing someone in like Walter, who has the charisma, personality, and the certifications, the know-how to do it, is also really appealing. I mean, we're offering free workouts for people, and we've tried to make it fun, and get exposure within the community and get the community behind us. The Rotary Club here in Giles bought every single member of our group Adidas or Nike shoes and had sweatshirts made for us. And that was just an example of them stepping forward and supporting us. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
If somebody wanted to get started, give me a call. Honestly, I would love to help spread this all over the country. No financial gain for myself, but I want to help spread what we do. So please just reach out.
We think this works.
I mean, it definitely sounds like it works. I would love to see like some, outcomes on it, tracking things like fitness outcomes and mental health outcomes, mental well-being outcomes. That always, people love to see the statistics and the data behind what's happening. So,
we're working on that, just getting some numbers, and we've seen a drop in relapse. We know we have. We don't have the numbers right now, but we have. We had a young lady just write a letter today. We saw it, and she was sober for 2 years, but she said, all I was doing was not using. I wasn't healing. And she sees the difference now. There's a difference in not using substances and actually healing. And that's what we're seeing is a difference. They're not just white knuckling it and holding on as long as they can. They're changing. And this has been a big help.
Yeah, I think whenever you bring movement of any kind into a program, it becomes more of a whole person approach, and it becomes more of an active approach, and it becomes more of a holistic healing environment for people, which is exactly what you're describing. Walter and Judge Harrell, it's been great speaking with both of you today. I really love the idea of recovery fitness and recovery court. If people want to reach out to you and learn more or connect with you and talk to you, how can they do that?
I guess my website would be the easiest way, just recoveryfitness.org. We also have a very new Facebook account, just Recovery Fitness. They can find me there. The website's a good one. Thank you.
No one really wants to come and see me, so just contact Walter. If you come to see me, it's probably because you're in trouble.
I'm assuming other legal professionals may want to connect with you and figure out.
I certainly can be found. I tell you where the best place to get in touch with me is to contact the circuit court clerk's office in Giles County, and they'll put you through to me. If somebody has any questions about what we're doing here, Walter also can get in touch with me also. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody who's interested in trying to start a program like this, because I really do believe in it, and it's been very beneficial.
Great. So we will link in the show notes to the links you just mentioned. It's recoveryfitness.org, I believe was the link. So we'll link to that, and you can reach out to both Walter and Judge Harrell there. We'll also link to the court information that you gave us as well. If you're listening to this episode and you're a health and wellness professional, maybe you're a legal professional, make sure to share this with your colleagues who have an interest in recovery fitness or recovery court. And please reach out to Walter and Judge Harrell and connect with them and see what they're doing and how you can bring it to your community. Because of course, every community in the United States has been impacted by addiction, especially by the opioid epidemic. And it definitely has an interconnection with pain recovery and mental well-being. Again,
Yes,
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being on the episode this week. I'm Dr. Joe Tatta, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.